Good evening. This is Tom Lee. I'm the Chief Investment Officer of Fundstrat Capital and the Portfolio Manager for Fundstrat's Large Cap ETF GRNY Shots. This is our update for the week of January 5th. I want to start with some numbers. The NAV of GRNY Shots is $20.24 and total assets $686 million. I want to address some questions that we do receive about GRNY from those. This is from Boulder Brett. He says, sadly, shares of GRNY are restricted from purchase on Merrill Edge. And he notes that the message he got was because there's unique risks. And someone asks, well, what is unique risk? Well, Boulder Brett himself, I think, really answers the question, which is that Merrill Lynch really just has not added GRNY to their catalog. This is going to be pretty common. If you're a client on Merrill, Morgan Stanley, Citigroup, or JP Morgan, new issues and new ETFs aren't often immediately added. There often is a requirement for sufficient assets, which GRNY does meet, time since issuance, or general interest from their own clients. So if you are interested in seeing GRNY on your platform, whether that's Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Citigroup, JP Morgan, it does help if you notify your advisor that you are interested in being able to actually purchase the security. Over the past week, GRNY Shots is down 0.47% or 47 basis points. The S&P is down 0.45% in the same time period, so the relative performance is minus 2 basis points, or roughly the same. Now you might be wondering, why have markets been down over the past several weeks? I mean, the S&P is down 2.5%, and a large part of this is the market's response to the Fed's hawkish rate cut on December 18th. Investors are simply worried that the Fed is going to be potentially either slowing the number of cuts next year, which is plausible, or even potentially raising rates. Now, this has caused markets to be down 8 of the last 12 trading days, and in fact, many have turned bearish, but I don't want you to lose sight of the bigger picture. The S&P 500 is up 25% over the past year, and it's been strong throughout 2024, avoiding many opportunities for weakness. So simply turning the calendar to 2025 doesn't really change anything. For instance, let's think about the longer term themes we've talked about. The millennial strategy is still intact. Global labor shortage and the rise of AI automation is still intact. Energy and cybersecurity themes are still intact. In fact, of course, we know there's a lot of talk about UFOs, but again, it's just a reminder that cybersecurity and energy security are going to be very important for years to come. And whether or not the Fed is going to make fewer cuts, easing financial conditions is still intact. And keep in mind the Fed is dovish. And in terms of our short-term themes, the style tilt is still intact. We, of course, rebalance every 3 months. The seasonality themes are still intact. We rebalance every 3 months. And the PMIs are recovering, and that's still intact. Since inception, GRNY Shots is up 0.18%. The S&P 500 is only up 0.47% in that period of time, meaning GRNY Shots has still outperformed 70 basis points. So 2 steps forward, 1 step back is still progress. Keep that in mind. And I do appreciate this comment from Frank Tucci, who says, great job, guys. GRNY is one of the best ETFs around if you want to own stock market leaders without having to trade them individually. And it's true, it is relatively tax efficient. In terms of GRNY individual stock performance over the past week, 20 of the 35 names in the GRNY Shots outperformed the S&P, so actually roughly 2/3 outperformed. The top performers this past week were NVIDIA, Eaton Corp, Arista Networks, Leidos Holdings, and CrowdStrike. The bottom 5 are, starting with the worst, Tesla, Apple, Netflix, Booking Holdings, and Costco. And as far as Tesla is concerned, Tesla has been up, 95% since election day. And there's been some profit taking down 17%. But to us, the thesis is still intact on Tesla. And in terms of upcoming events, on January 6th, Jensen Huang is kicking off CES, and he's speaking. And on January 8th, Costco is going to report their monthly sales. Now, you might wonder what granny shots is. It's really referring to an unconventional way of doing basketball free throws. Most do overhand like Shaquille O'Neal, but the hit rate or success rate is only 52%. By contrast, a granny shot is something Rick Barry has done, and he has a 90% win rate. He's an NBA Hall of Famer, and that's what we're trying to achieve with our granny shots ETF. We look at those longer term themes and the tactical themes I mentioned, and we want to buy stocks that appear in multiple themes. In other words, it has to appear in more than one theme. And the biggest or the strongest granny shots tend to be in more than two themes, such as Meta, Google, Garmin, Grainger, Caterpillar, etc. More information is available on our fact sheet, or you can check it out at grannyshots.com. This is the investment team. It's myself, Ken Shen, who is also known as Tireless Ken, and Steve Quinn, who's the head of asset management. That's it for now, and thanks for listening.